you're an absolute savage. I'm just going to say it at the dip. So I really want to get your unfiltered thoughts on dipping technique for maximum performance.
So the street lifting dip, I love it so much. Let's start from the beginning. So in the support, you need to be tense, like on the straight arms, like you need to lock out your arms, depress your scapula, push against gravity so that your chest, keep your chest a bit hollow. Like this is where the controversy starts, because a lot of people advise to do dips with the retracted scapula, and I don't, because I prefer to have my chest closed. Why? Because retracted scapula or open chest, it puts a lot of stretch on your chest and shoulders, and that's what we want to avoid when we dip heavy weight, because stretch under heavy weight invites injury. So our chest needs to be a little bit like closed, and abs tight, legs preferably straight, or if you're bending your legs, never cross them, because crossing legs, like, it invites disbalances, and your position will be asymmetrical. So don't do that. Your position needs to be perfectly symmetrical, tight, closed, so you are in full control of the movement. If you are dipping with additional weight, then always keep the weight controlled with your legs, always. The main mistake I see with weighted dips is that people let go of the weights and let them hang free. Just never do that, because if you have like your center of mass in the dip moving around as the plates hang, you cannot be talking about good results and a controlled dip. It's just not happening if you are not in control of the weight. Because usually if you're dipping heavy, if you're dipping more than your body weight, then the center of mass in your dip will be where the plates are. So, and if the plates are moving around, then how can we even talk about a stable dip? It's just not happening.
Real quick, like the video to support fitness FAQs and spread the word about calisthenics. That's perfect, yeah. And what range of motion at the shoulder are you looking for? The shoulder to hit 90 degrees or slightly below? What's your thoughts on that?
That's the second part of the dip, the descent. On the descent, we need to keep the body position like the same as in support, as in closed chest, straight legs, controlled weight, and we need to go down to, like, yes, to 90 degrees, but different federations and different people judge 90 degrees differently. So the universal standard, the most accepted one, is the rear delt. The upper part of the rear delt is below the elbow. So in terms of like bone composition, it will be a little bit lower than 90 degrees, but I guess that it's okay, because it's still the safe range of motion. Like, it's not like down to the dip bars with your shoulders, it's just rear delt in that on level or below your elbow. And then comes the third part, or the concentric, the actual dip. And here you want to let go of your closed chest a little and go to neutral, let go of the tension in your abs. So like a little bit of extension is happening. Like, some Russian people say that this is cheating and you cannot extend during the dip, like you have to dip with your straight body. And I'm usually against that, because what this like closed to open position gives you, it gives you protection during the descent and then during the 90-degree phase. And still, it's not forbidden in the rules, even if you consider this cheating. Well, by the rules, it's not. You can do that in competitions, so it will count. As long as your plates actually move, don't stay in one place. You can be open or closed or whatever you want. So extend a little bit from the bottom, push really hard, and push with your shoulders a little bit back as well, because when you're closed, it means that your shoulders are a bit forward. So you have to compensate that on the concentric and arrive in support. And that's the finish of your dip. The main thing about dips is control. If you don't have control, you don't have a dip. That is as simple as that. And all these closed chest, closed abs, straight legs, it's all for gaining control. It's not for cheating. It's not for like aesthetic purposes, although a closed dip, in my opinion, looks better. It's all for having control over your rep. And if you don't have control, you will never close that rep, believe me.
You've mentioned a handful of things. Of course, when you're actually training and actually performing, you can't focus on so many details at once. What are you mentally visualizing
mentally visualizing the following sequence, like in the support and on the way down, control, 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 control. And when you reach 90 degrees, explode up. Explode up as hard as you can until you arrive in support. And that works.
Perfect. It's simple, it's basic, but it takes years to refine that motor pattern correctly as you have. And you've mentioned so many good points there that are going to help people to improve their dip in terms of stabilizing the weight, etc., etc. How important is breathing during the dip?
Breathing, well, I found that like breathing with Valsalva maneuver, like people do on the squat, it doesn't really work for me on dips. And usually when I even think about breathing during the dips, I find my performance declining a little because it brings my concentration off. So I guess don't really think about breathing. Like find what works for you, because like tensioning like in the squat for me doesn't work. And even if I do like long pause dips, like you probably have seen them on Instagram, like I do 3-count pause dips. It's probably a little bit too long to hold your breath during this whole pause. So I guess I'm breathing freely during this. The really one thing that I always notice myself doing is before the dip, I breathe out. I like to feel empty when I go down. Probably sounds strange, but when you breathe out, you can really tense your abs much better, tense your core much better. Like even if you try to do that right now, you will feel like tension in your core.
You've got a particular setup with your dip belts. Can you explain that longer anchor point that you've got and the value of that?
Well, my dip setup is really one of a kind. Probably was the first one to do that, and then I see a lot of people following my setups. So I guess that really is a good thing to talk about. So I put my plates really low in my dips, so like I can hold the plates not with my calves or with my thighs, but with my shins, like with the feet. What that does is that it brings the center of mass really, really, really low. And that makes me stable, because when your center of mass is low, you are stable, you don't swing around. It stabilizes you, it grounds you, so to say. And when you dip, you'll feel it, especially with a heavy weight. I want to say another thing is that instead of the chain on the belt, I use a rope. Because rope is lighter, it's tighter, and it doesn't tear clothing. Because every street lifter, every person who has ever done weighted calisthenics in their life, they know that chains tear through clothing. Like I had a whole collection of t-shirts like torn away by chains. When I started using ropes, it went away.
And of course, everyone that's done weighted Cali knows that when the clip gets onto your skin, you get those like weird irritation bruise marks, which are just really awkward.
When you find the optimal length of the rope, optimal height of the plates, it stops happening. So I guess my advice would be to find a good setup that works for you.
Watch another video to keep learning with me. Shop Fitness FAQs to conquer calisthenics with our world-class workouts. Peace, legends.